I do not own the rights to this music.
And while we're down here, let us tell the world when all God's children get together. What a time, what a time, what a time. We're gonna sit down and have a thing all the way. What a time, what a time. Well, all of God's people get together. What a time, what a time, what a time. We're gonna sit down by the banks of the river. Yeah, what a time, what a time.
Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. Sunday School lesson for Sunday, September the 14th, 2025. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We are discussing Isaiah and the Renewal of the Temple in Unit 1 of the Fall 2025 Lesson Series. The title of our second lesson from Unit 1 comes from the Fall 2025 Lesson Series, and it is titled Celebrating the Past. Celebrating the Past. And the key verse comes from 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verse 26, and it reads, "There was a great joy in Jerusalem, for since the days of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem." And that is the Passover celebration that we are going to discuss in our lesson today. The title of today's lesson, Celebrating the Past, comes from the 30th chapter of the book of Chronicles. Now, 1st and 2nd Chronicles were originally written as one book, and the author is unknown. Collectively, Chronicle documents the history and genealogy of the Israelites. Chronicle records the actions and events during the glorious reigns of King David and Solomon through a series of poor rulers until King Hezekiah. Now, Chronicles records David's organization of worship and preparation for the building of the temple, how God entrusted responsibility to King Solomon to implement David's vision and build and dedicate the temple, and how the temple became the center of worship for the unity of the Israelites. After the death of King Solomon, Israel went through a succession of kings whose leadership resulted in the spiritual decline of temple worship that led to isolation, idolatry, and division, which brings us to today's lesson. There are 3 summary lesson points for today. The example of leadership, and that's from 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 1 through 2. The call to renewal from 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 3 through 9. The joy of revival, and that's from 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 26 and 27. The passages for the lesson today revolve around the key words of faith, wisdom, and leadership. And we know that faith is a complete trust, belief, or confidence in God. It is the faith of King Hezekiah in the God of deliverance of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel in today's lesson. Wisdom is the ability to apply experience, knowledge, and understanding to produce good judgment. It is the wisdom of King Hezekiah to acknowledge God's deliverance of the Jewish people and restore the worship of the Passover in today's lesson. Leadership is the process of influencing and inspiring individuals or groups to work together towards a common goal. It is King Hezekiah's leadership that resulted in a restored Passover worship and renewed and revived the people's spirit and faith in God in today's lesson. Example of leadership, 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 1 and 2. And in these passages, the people prepare for the Passover festival. It says, Hezekiah sent a message to all the people of Israel and Judah, and he wrote the letter to the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, and he told them to come to the Lord's temple in Jerusalem, and that they should come to worship the Lord Israel's God at the Passover festival. And the king and all of his officers and the people who lived in Jerusalem decided to have the Passover in the second month as opposed to the first month to allow everyone the opportunity to participate. So leadership allows others to be involved and to bring them into participation. The second point is the call to spiritual renewal, and that's from 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 3 through 9. And in these passages, Hezekiah executes his plan for the Passover celebrations. And it says that the first obstacle was that there was not enough priests that had been made to serve the Lord. And so they could not have the feast at the appointed time. And also the people had to travel to Jerusalem. So the idea seemed right to the king and to all the people to hold the Passover. They sent a message with the king's command to all the people everywhere in Israel from Bathsheba to Dan, and the message told the people to come to Jerusalem for the Passover to worship the Lord, Israel's God. And then he said they took the letters from the king and his officers to the people in Israel and Judah. And the king's message was a message to the people of Israel who have escaped from the power of the kings of Assyria. He says, turn back now to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return back to you. He says, do not be like your parents who were stiff-necked or obstinate or difficult. And he says they turned away from God, and the Lord turned away from them as well. So he punished them. And he says, obey, do not refuse to obey the Lord. And he says, if you turn back to the Lord, again, your enemies will be kind to you, to your relatives, and to your children, and they will let you return to their homes. So he is saying that God has delivered them once from the slavery and bondage in Egypt, and that they should return to the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel to lead them from their present predicament of division and threats from neighboring forces. The joy of revival is our third summary point, and that's from 2 Chronicles 30 and 26 through 27, and we arrive at the actual festival. And it goes on to say that this was a very successful event on the part of King Hezekiah. He says, everyone enjoyed the festival in Jerusalem, and nothing in this had happened in Jerusalem since the time when David's son Solomon was the king of Israel. And he says that the priests and Levites stood up and they asked God to bless the people. Their prayers reached the Lord's home in heaven, and he did what they asked for. And he brought unity and reunification to the people based upon their return to the Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. So we have to return to our faith in God and restore our worship, revive our spirits, so that the Lord will keep and protect us like he did our ancestors. This is Brother Ron with the Sunday School Summary for Sunday, September the 14th, 2025. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.